Thank you so much, Lieutenant Governor. It's an absolute joy to be here today to celebrate Women's Equality Day. And as you've heard, we've certainly made a lot of significant strides in our state in terms of our numbers of representation. Unfortunately, we do see every few years that there is a backslide. So this is one of those issues where we have to stay on top of it, because otherwise we do slide back. And to be perfectly honest, 50% should be our bare minimum. 50% should be, yes, exactly, the floor and not the ceiling. And I say that because, as our often quoted and beloved Ruth Bader Ginsburg said when she was asked, well, how many women should there be on the Supreme Court? How many would be enough? She would say, when there are 9. And I'll be honest, as I look out at our male allies, I used to think, oh, well, maybe that's not fair. It's absolutely fair. And the reality is that like I said, we have made strides. We certainly see the difference in the chamber with the number of women of all genders and all races that we see in our chamber. But again, it's not enough, and we have to keep pushing. One of the bills we passed this year was a student loan debt relief bill, and that was significant for women, and especially Black and Latino women, because they carry the majority of the student loan debt. That's because they go into professions that unfortunately are incredibly critical to our society, but are not necessarily the high-paying jobs. There are social workers, there are teachers, there are nurses. So we significantly have to focus on that, because that is an economic participation bill. When you can bring down your student loan debt, that means you might be able to start a family, if you so choose, buy a house, buy a car at a lower interest rate. And so we have to significantly work on issues like that. The Lieutenant Governor, and I believe others, mentioned the parity in terms of in the boardroom. That was one of the recommendations that actually came out of the Governor's transition team from the Women's Committee, that we have 50% of women on every board, and especially for any companies that receive state assistance, that we need to make sure that we're seeing more women in the boardroom, because we on boards lower financial mistakes by 25%. Why? Because women ask questions. It's a significant bonus. It's a significant bonus to any board to have women there and present. And it's wonderful to hear from our women commissioners about all of the ways in which they are utilizing women in their spaces, but we still have work to do. In the public health sphere, I know that we've come a long way. We introduced the endometriosis working group recommendations. We now have a bio bill in terms of that we are going to have a biorepository for all of our endometriosis tissue, the first of its kind in the nation, which will drastically change the lives of women who have suffered for years in silence with endometriosis. But we need to go further. In fact, women were not even tested. We did not have women testing protocols for medicines, for surgical procedures until the 1980s. And so until we reach parity in terms of anesthesia, in terms of medication, in terms of mental health, we have not come far enough. So as we celebrate our wins today, we know we have a lot of great work to do, and I'm so glad to be part of that process and to be celebrating with all these fantastic women behind me. Thanks so much, Lieutenant Governor.